You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy from the box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Now here's your host, Josh Guesman.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special edition of Corner of the Galaxy from the box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. No Mr. Kevin Baxter today. Hockey has taken him away. But if you're listening to this on Monday, we'll be back on Tuesday with Kevin and have our normal show on Tuesday. But what we wanted to do is bring you a special show on Monday that would go over a lot of the audio that we have collected and curated from a very interesting 2-2 draw with the Chicago Fire. Lots of post-game interviews. In fact, I don't know that there have ever been more players interviewed after a game than what has happened. And so we're going to have a lot of audio to go to. You're not even going to touch a fraction of it as we go through it. So, we're going to talk about it. But to help me talk about it, somebody who has been in the press box this year, a new addition to the press box and doing an awesome job. Britt Pergl is going to be joining us, and she is from TotalMLS.net. Britt, how's it going?
Pretty good, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. You and I have talked, obviously, a lot about the game. We talked about it after Saturday night, after talking to all the players. And I think that we have a unique perspective on sort of what has happened in the locker room after this game that perhaps if you're just watching it, it looks more like a dumpster fire from the outside. But talking to the players, it seems like maybe there's something different. I think we're going to get to a lot of audio, and we're going to pull a lot of clips. That way we can sort of illustrate some of our points and how we're going. But I have to ask you, of course, first off the top of your head, how did you take or what did you get out of the LA Galaxy's 2-2 draw with the Chicago Fire?
I mean, you definitely called it an interesting draw, and I always hesitate to use that terminology, but I think it definitely applies in this game. It was really a tale of two halves kind of thing, where two of the bigger names went out in the first half, but then there was this, miracle type situation at halftime, and things turned around. Honestly, if I'm going to be honest here, I was not expecting them to come back because goal scoring has been an issue. But hey, they came back, brought those 2 goals back, and ended up drawing at home, which somehow, with the way this team is doing, almost feels like a win. But I think it was an overall good result for the team. Yeah,
it is. And I think CoG Jones tweeted, a draw that felt like a win last night doesn't necessarily feel like a win on Sunday morning. And I think I feel some of that. I think I feel a little bit the excitement that happened in that game. There was a lot of it, and the soap opera sort of storylines that we're carrying on throughout that game were so interesting that it was interesting on the field, off the field, and so it really got me sort of, amped up watching the game and try to analyze it. And so I think that's the lens I look through it. But coming, again, you're talking about the LA Galaxy and draws at home and the fact that the Galaxy cannot seem to get points at home. In fact, they've played 6 games at home, and they have a total of 5 points from those 6 games. So out of 18 possible points, they have 5 points, which is horrendous and horrible. And that's sort of more of that at home. But it was interesting to sort of see what the LA Galaxy said and did after the game and sort of how they did everything. So we're going to get into the audio portion of this and start going into some of the clips. And like I said, we have a bunch of them. We'll see however many we can get to them in the next 15 or 20 minutes. But we're going to start at the very beginning, a very good place to start. Again, a Sound of Music reference already early in the show, not even 4 minutes in. But we're going to go with Curt Onalfo speaking to the press after the LA Galaxy's 2-2 draw. This was the very first question that he was asked, and it's the normal first question. Curt, what did you think of this game, and what do you think of the results? So here's Curt Onalfo.
We became a team tonight. That's the Galaxy team that you'll see moving forward. I think it was a galvanizing moment for our group. We've been through a lot already, and it was a pretty darn good second half, and I told him at halftime that I felt like if we just got 1 goal, the second would come, and we'd have an opportunity to turn this into possibly 3 points. But at a minimum, we're walking out of here with 1, and that's what we did.
All right, so there's Curt Onalfo, the famous, although almost infamous, "We became a team tonight." I know lots of fans, Britt, are asking, what happened or what was this if it wasn't a team, and all these different things. But what do you take from "we became a team tonight"?
I don't know if it was. I mean, it would have been interesting to hear his comments at halftime if he would have said that then. I don't know if it was a hey, just hey, I finally put results on the field, so this is what I'm going to say, is that we became a team. But at the same time, there's a lot to look at. Saying we became a team when two of the biggest names weren't on the field is kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. Jelle Van Damme gets subbed tactically. I want to clear this up. I don't know how many times I can say it, but I keep seeing people not saying it correctly. There was nothing wrong with Jelle Van Damme. There was zero wrong with Jelle Van Damme. Nothing, no injury. He didn't ask to be taken out, which I also saw. None of that happened. He came out because Curt Onalfo pulled him as a tactical issue, all right? And basically, at halftime, he came back and told Spectrum Sportsnet's Kelly Tennant that there were too many mistakes made by Jelle Van Damme, and that was one of the reasons that he subbed Jelle Van Damme. So you don't have Jelle Van Damme on the field. Jermaine Jones goes down, with what we now know is an MCL sprain / tear / whatever you want to his right knee. The LA Galaxy are claiming 3 to 4 weeks on a time frame there. Listen, I've looked it up. It's a grade 2 MCL sprain. A grade 2 says that it's like 8 to 12 weeks. So Britt, I know you have some background in this a little bit, and can you at least throw some knowledge out there for us?
Sure. So it's always kind of foggy throwing timelines out there. So it makes sense if the team wants to kind of calm things down. Hey, we're going on a 4-week road trip. Let's not say that this player that we spent a lot of time and money on is going to be out for the entire road trip and longer. Like, let's kind of just keep it at the minimum. But at the same time, I think a lot of people were I was about to say surprised, but people kind of know about his knee injury past. But I know I was certainly more concerned about the ball that he took to the face in this injury. So hearing that it was a knee sprain and looking at the clip again, it makes sense. His foot was planted and his knee kind of moved from side to side instead of front to back the way a knee is supposed to. So of course there's going to be some sort of injury there, especially with a player that kind of has a history of knee issues.
Yeah, this is the same player who played all of 9 regular season games for the Colorado Rapids because of an LCL sprain. He was out for, I believe, 14 weeks on the recovery time on that one, after it was reported that it would be, 2 to 3 weeks, or it's really close, I'm coming back, that type of thing. So just sort of keep that in the back of your head whenever you understand what you're looking at with Jermaine Jones. And as Wendy Thomas, my excellent co-host on Corner of the Galaxy, our live show on Thursday nights, would of course tell you, is that she saw this coming, and a lot of people did. And this is another question mark the LA Galaxy front office sort of has to answer. Although I will say this seems like it's more freak, sort of a freak injury than it is age-related, Britt. It didn't seem like it was like, oh, I'm old and my knee just gave out. It seemed like I got whacked in the face and fell like Gumby, like a limp rag doll to the turf, and my knee twisted when I hit the ground. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, age injuries are going to be overused. Like, hey, I'm playing too many games on turf, so I'm hurting now. It was definitely, oh crap, I don't want to get hit in the face that bad. Let me kind of duck out of the way, and his knee wobbled in a way that it shouldn't have. So it was definitely more of a freak type injury than a, hey, you're getting up there in age injury. Yeah, the LA Galaxy wrapping up a lot of injuries, by the way. If you're keeping track of all the injuries, Robbie Rogers, Sebastian Lletget, Giassi Zardes, Ashley Cole, some of those are obviously not back on the field, Robbie Rogers and Sebastian Lletget. And at the end of this particular episode, I will play you my on-the-field interview it's about a minute long, but an on-the-field interview with Sebastian Lletget before the LA Galaxy took on the Chicago Fire. He was out there taking pictures, so stay tuned for that here a little bit later. But we sort of got off sidetracked. We're talking about Curt Onalfo and how he says, that this team became a team. And almost every player got asked that question. I think it's worth noting that it's sometimes whenever you get a theme from a manager like that, you want to ask the players if they agree with that or they disagree with that. And so let's go ahead and hear from Ashley Cole. Ashley Cole, who doesn't actually talk a lot. We don't normally talk to him, was speaking. And so he also had a comment on if this team became a team. So let's go ahead and hear from Ashley Cole.
Yeah, I think it's true. I think in the first half, we've been bad for me in the first half for a lot of games this season. We've not been together. We've not been kind of moving right as a team, which can happen because it's a new team. Okay, we had pre-season, but we still kind of get to know each other still. But in the second half, like you said, we all come together, didn't give up, kept that fighting spirit, and as I said, I think this is kind of minimum you should require from your teammates is a work ethic, and I think today we showed that.
All right, there it is. Yeah, I mean, everybody sort of agreed that yes, this team did become a team, quote unquote. Something changed. Let's not even put it in terms of Kurt Arnolfo, Britt. Let's say something changed in the second half that made this team play like a team. And I think from my eyes, I agree with that. I think that they were much more dangerous. They created, both their goals come off corner kicks. I understand that. And people are criticizing that, saying, hey, not even really run a place types things. But they created something like 6 or 7 corner kicks in the second half and ended up with 9 or 10 corner kicks overall in the game. So there was that pressure that they were putting on Chicago. With Ashley Cole and every other player, is that what they were looking at, Britt? Are they just saying, something definitely changed, or is this really a coming together?
I think that something changed. I think it's easy to pull in the big names, but at the same time, it's younger people trying to get their spots, more inexperienced people trying to get their spots on the team against a much better Chicago Fire team than there has been in the past. And I always think that teams play either up or down to their competition, and I'm not saying that they played terribly last week because it was the Philadelphia Union, but at the same time, I think stepping up to the Chicago Fire was kind of that change. Is it a season-changing moment? I don't think so. I think it's easy to say after the fact that, hey, now we're a team, now we're going to go do things, and it's a good motivating factor going into this long road trip. But I think that I'd say there's a 50-50 shot of this is actually changing something, like a pivoting point for this team.
Yeah, it is. It is a lot to sort of say. I will say this, and let's actually before I even go there, I'm going to write down what I was going to say. But what we're going to do is I wanted to get Ashley Cole talking about youth versus veterans and everything else. And somebody asked, what was the difference out there? You had 2 of your stars off the field. Sort of what was the main difference out there between the youth and some of the age? So here's Ashley Cole.
They can run. No, I just think, like I said, that they're proving to the coaches and, of course, the fans that they're good enough to play for Galaxy. And, of course, you're going to miss people like Yalo and Jermaine in the team. But said the young guys that come on, Dave Romney and, of course, Ema, was magnificent. I think they worked their socks off. And I said we did kind of come together as a team today in the second half. We had to because, like I said, first half is unacceptable.
There you go. All right, little Ashley Cole. I like it. What's the main difference between the young players and the old guys? They can run. All right, so that's good Ashley Cole for you, and it actually it makes a lot of sense too. So, this is the thing that I wanted to get to before we played Ashley Cole is that people wanted Kurt Arnolfo fired, Britt, and it's well known, well documented all across Twitter. There was a sign in the stadium. There was all sorts of things going on, and I'm not necessarily somebody who disagrees with that. I thought that if he would have lost the game against Philadelphia, he would have been fired. I thought that if he would have lost this game against Chicago, especially the way it started 2-0, I thought he was going to be fired. And the reason because of that wasn't necessarily the results. The results are important. And obviously, the Galaxy knew that they were going to probably struggle at the beginning of this year with those results. But it was because he had, quote unquote, lost the team, right? We saw problems in in that Seattle game where Emmanuel Boateng doesn't shake hands. It seems like, we've seen Jermaine Jones yelling at Kurt Arnolfo. We've seen Jelle Van Damme have some issues with Kurt Arnolfo. You've seen all these things, and he lost the team. And if a manager loses the team, then he can't recover from that. But what I saw in the locker room after this game, which isn't necessarily something you're going to see anywhere, on the field or anything else, is that this team seemed to be okay with Kurt and his stand against Jelle Van Damme. In fact, I would say a lot of them seemed almost relieved that it happened and were excited about the results that it produced, and that something changed there. So if we're talking about something changed, that's what I think changed. Do you think I'm crazy, Britt, or is there something to that? Did you get the same feeling?
I definitely got the same feeling. Like looking through my notes, I noted in a couple of different players it said, hey, I'm not the coach, I don't make that decision. And I don't know if that was because other players in the room were trying to make that decision for the coach, and that's why Kurt Arnolfo was very clear saying, I am the leader of this team. Sorry, I jumped the gun on that one. But I know that I think that the younger players are still trying to prove themselves. So the coach's opinion of them it means a lot more to them.
Yeah, let's go ahead and play that Kurt Arnolfo second clip. And Britt was right there whenever Kurt said this in the post-game press conference. So let's hear Kurt Arnolfo talking about why he subbed Jelle Van Damme. This was my question, by the way, and sort of how that comes up. So here's Kurt Arnolfo talking about Jelle Van Damme.
Yeah, I expect our players to be right from minute one. And I'm the leader of the team. And if guys aren't, I'm the leader of the team, and I have to make substitutions to get our group to where it needs to be. And I brought in Romney, and he did a solid job, and we didn't concede anymore, and we ended up creating a lot of chances.
All right, and a little bit more follow-up from Kurt Onalfo.
Well, we conceded 2 goals early on, and I wanted to make sure that didn't happen moving forward.
Yeah, that was also in response to Jelle Van Damme there, is why he got subbed in that particular case. So I'm the leader, Britt. I'm the leader. I'm telling you I'm the leader. I've always been the leader. Haven't you been paying attention? I don't know. Kurt Onalfo has this way of doing things, and he has in post-game press conferences, and he has a way of saying that whenever he makes a sub, it was successful, and whenever he changes things, it worked, and I'm the leader, and all these other things. I mean, does it sound like a guy who's the leader, or does it sound like the guy who's trying to sound like the guy who's the leader?
I think he's trying to convince someone, be it himself, be it the team, that he is the leader, or that he's trying to regain something that he's like slowly losing the reins on.
Yeah, I mean, you can see that. I mean, I don't know that I feel like there's a whole bunch of confidence. Wendy pointed out in the last Thursday show the sighs and sort of the pauses and that type of stuff before he gives answers, and he seems like he was beat down. I'll tell you this, coming in, he had a lot more pep in his step. So I think he was feeling better about the team, but the entire team felt that way. I know that fans want to think that in the locker room after a game, and when they lose, or whenever it's a bad result, the 0-0 draw against Philadelphia, you get that ominous feeling, right? It's not happy in the locker room. We have to be quieter whenever we go in the locker room, otherwise we might get yelled at. You don't want players to get angry at you. You want to match sort of the attitude or the feeling,
the
in
vibe.
The vibe of the room. And so we've matched that vibe whenever we go in, so that way you can talk to players and relate to them to get them to open up. And it makes sense. They were not upset. I think they were upset that this game ended. I think that they wanted to play at least another 45 minutes out there, and I think that if they did, they would have beat Chicago without Jelle Van Damme and without Jermaine Jones. That to me is sort of the biggest thing. Am I off base there?
No, I agree, definitely.
All right, let's continue down our audio tour of the LA Galaxy. One of my favorite guys, actually, João Pedro, a guy who I don't know that we've had any audio from him on the show. João Pedro was talking, and we were listening, and the first thing that got asked, which is the most reasonable thing to ask, by the way, was, how was your pairing with Baggio Husidic? It's your second game with him. It seems like you had success, and I will say that in the Philadelphia game, granted the competition, João Pedro played better. In the Chicago game, I thought, again, he had one of his best games. 2 games in a row, paired with Baggio Husidic. João Pedro, what's sort of the difference? And so here's his answer.
I don't know. The last game I played with Baggio too. So when I have Baggio on my side, the team is more balanced and secure, and I can go more high on the field. That's what I like more. And Jermaine is a player who really likes to run in behind and make hard runs. And with Baggio is different. Baggio stays more on my side, and it's more easy for me to defend and help the team to defend. But when we attack, we always have the balance and in the right position to make a good attack and a security one.
All right. So Britt, what do you take from João Pedro and what he said about Baggio Husidic?
I think that it's something that is sort of almost opposite from what I've seen a lot of the fan base. I don't know if I ever heard anyone say that I feel the midfield is more balanced and secure with these two paired together, with Baggio Husidic and João Pedro together. But it's an interesting combination, interesting thought that he sees it that way. But at the same time, I don't know if it's just, yes, this is what my coach is saying, so I'm going to repeat it to the media.
Yeah, so for me, because, you always have to bounce this off your eyes, right? People love to look at statistics. People love to listen to quotes. You could take quotes for their word, or you can take quotes and actually bounce it off your eyes. For me, it looks like João Pedro is a lot more comfortable playing next to Baggio Husidic, and that's probably a good thing for the LA Galaxy, being Jermaine Jones is out. But this is another thing that you're sort of looking at is that if João Pedro, a guy the LA Galaxy spent a ton of money to bring into the club, aren't paying him a ton of money, but spent a ton of money to bring into the club with the transfer fee, this is a guy who needed to perform. And in the last 2 games, you can complain about the competition all you want, because that's all I ever hear whenever I said João Pedro played well against Philadelphia and Chicago. I was told Chicago's not a good team. Chicago is a good team. They're not a horrible team. They're a middle-of-the-road team right now in Major League Soccer, and they have the potential to be very good with the midfield that they have, all right? But the João Pedro has looked a lot more stable to me, a lot better, a lot more comfortable. He has been second in tackles for 2 consecutive games. Bradley Diallo, by the way, is the guy who's been leading the team in tackles because, of course, that's where everybody's going to attack the LA Galaxy's right side against Bradley Diallo. He has had the most tackles in the last 2 games, and then it's been João Pedro. So I feel like João Pedro is settling. I feel like he likes Baggio Husidic because he knows what to expect, and with Jermaine Jones, I'm not sure that was there. All right, let's get to some other quotes that we have here. Gyasi Zardes, if you want to give him an award for the guy who answered the most questions, Britt, it was Gyasi Zardes. I think he answered 12 or 13 questions. So he was the one that was constantly under fire for Mr. Scott French, who we love. So Scott was there talking to Gyasi Zardes. This is sort of where it was. We're going to start with, did he feel like this team became a team? And then we're going to get into something about what Kurt said at halftime. So here's Gyasi Zardes talking after the game.
Yeah, I agree with our coach, and I feel like that was true. You can see that by the second half, we look like a whole different team. We're out there fighting for each other, and just straight from the get-go, we're just pressing them. This is our home field, our home stadium, and I think we showed a lot of character that second half.
Okay, showed character in the second half. I want to get to what Kurt said to him. So we have 2 back-to-back here. What did Kurt say at halftime?
Yeah, he always talked to us, but it was on us, as well, the players, just to go out there and just take over the game. He was positive throughout the whole spell of halftime, and he's always very motivating. But this team really showed a lot of character, as I said before.
All right, and then Gyasi Zardes, somebody asked, well, did he come in? Did he yell at you? And Gyasi Zardes, I think, gave one of the best answers of the night, at least for me. So here he is answering that question.
No, you don't have to yell to get through to us. We're men, We know what's at stake, and we know we need to bring a win to the stadium, and it's only right for our fans to try to get a win out here.
There you go. We're men. We're men. We don't need to be yelled at, although I think sometimes they do need to be yelled at. I think Jelle Van Damme needed to be yelled at. I think Jermaine Jones, despite the fact that he came out with injury break, probably needed to be yelled at as well. So, what are we taking from all of these sort of, you're listening to these guys speak. Do they sound positive? Because to me, they sounded positive and upbeat.
They definitely did sound. They definitely did sound positive and upbeat. It sounded like they got a win almost, and that this was this crazy turning point for the season, and everything's going to be sunshine and unicorns from here on out.
Sunshine
is what I took from that comment.
Yeah, sunshine and unicorns. Everything's fine. We're good. Everything's fixed. Here sort of is the rough, hard part about this. I've heard in their losses, Britt, we've heard them say stuff like, I don't know, we need to get together, we need to talk to each other, we need to learn our lessons, I don't know what happened. There seemed to be a lot of question marks and things like that. To me, it sounded like this team was unified in voice and sort of, we figured something out, we can fight, we can win, we can play in these games, this isn't going to be a problem. And the guys were even saying that they were looking forward to going on the road trip because, you know what, Dan Steres actually said it, and we're going to, let me find that clip and play you Dan Steres talking about sort of not getting it done at home and what he needs to do in terms of getting it on the road.
Hopefully go similar to how this second half did. We're going to have to be a lot more of a lockdown defense. They're a good attacking team. But, we're just getting over this game. We'll take a look at them this upcoming week, and we'll work on things to improve on what we did in the second half and bring it.
And bring it. All right, so he's going to bring it. And then, it's really... It's about carrying this over and doing all those things. But this doesn't feel like, and sort of where I was going with before I got sidetracked by Dan Steres, because it's always nice to hear from Dan, is that this doesn't seem like a team that, the coach is lost right now. And I can't believe I'd ever be saying that after the game against Philadelphia or after the game against Seattle.
Right, I definitely agree. But my one question here is, like, him saying, okay, now we're going to bring it, but why haven't they brought it? Like, what... I mean, we asked all of them, okay, what changed? And most of it was just a mentality. We decided that this is what we were going to do, but why didn't that happen, I don't know, 8 games ago?
Yeah, no, and that is sort of the crux. That's what everybody was trying to get to. What changed? Why did it change? What physically happened that created these mental changes? And the only thing you can go back to, and people want to separate this, right? You've seen it. I've seen fans doing it all day today, and I'm sure they were doing it all day on Sunday, and I wasn't paying attention. But they're trying to separate it, saying, the reason the LA Galaxy were so good is because Jermaine Jones got injured, and he has been an issue in the midfield, and this allowed players like João Pedro to play better, and it allowed Giovanni Dos Santos to sort of take over that 10 role. And I agree 100% with that. I think that is a major reason. But we can't separate it from the fact that Curt Onalfo pulled his captain off the field in the 33rd minute of a match for a tactical reason, and you can't tell me that didn't have a mental effect on the team. You can't. Can you separate those two, Britt? You can't, can you?
So you can't really separate these two in that one of them, in Jermaine Jones, Curt really had no say in the injury. Obviously, he couldn't have said, okay, you're going to get injured now and I'm going to have to take you off the field. But for Jelle Van Damme, he did make that decision. So maybe that's why he was so proud of himself, because, hey, I made a good call and it actually really worked this time.
Yeah, and I think he can easily point to that. But I think a lot of people want to take sort of issues with that. Listen, there are fan reports right now, and we all know Jelle Van Damme did not come out for the second half. He didn't sit on the bench, all right? We all know that Jelle Van Damme declined to speak with the media. We were more than willing to speak with him, and he decided not to do that. Okay, and that's sort of his choice up to a certain point. Although all players are supposed to be available for the media afterwards, so hey, guys get mad, they get ticked off. For the most part, I'm not going to hold anything against him. But he is the captain of the team. You would expect for him to speak anytime he's available, but I could understand him not doing this. But he wasn't out on the bench in the second half, and there's a fan report, at least one, on Facebook that says that Jelle Van Damme maybe even was in the Champions Lounge drinking at one point during the second half or after the game or at halftime or sometime in the break there, but not with his team. That, to me, puts up serious red flags. Just the fact that he's not sitting on the bench in the second half is sort of crazy to me. And if he's a captain, which he's supposed to be, Britt, and I think there's certainly been arguments about whether or not he's the captain or Jermaine Jones is the captain. What does that say about your captain? And is that a knock against Curt Onalfo or a knock against Jelle Van Damme?
I mean, it's hard to, again, this is something you can't separate, because it's definitely a knock that Jelle Van Damme probably isn't buying into Curt Onalfo's system, but at the same time, Curt Onalfo hasn't done whatever it is to earn that respect from Jelle Van Damme either.
Yeah, no, and that certainly is the two sides of the coin. Is some people say that they demand respect and you earn respect. So how has Curt not earned the respect? But in another way, and the biggest complaint I've heard, and people have told me this, that about sort of Curt Onalfo's first 8 games or so, is that he wasn't holding veterans accountable. And if this is him holding veterans accountable, if he loses Jelle Van Damme but gets the rest of the team back, is that a win or is that a loss? Is there any way to measure that?
I mean, the only way to measure that is looking back at it a month from now and see how this road trip goes and see if Jelle is going to start the next game, if he's I don't know. I guess I haven't thought that far because we're still reviewing these clips, but it'd definitely be interesting. And I really think the only way to measure that is looking back down the road.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see. And of course, as we always say, we can be wrong, we can be right today and wrong tomorrow. And so as these things continue to sort of play out, we're going to keep an eye on them here at Corner of the Galaxy. If you want to follow Brittany, tell people your Twitter handle if you want to give it out, and tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Britt, BRITT ____Jo. So that's Britt with 3 underscores in between JO. And I write for Total MLS.
Yep, totalmls.net. Make sure you find Britt's great work there, and she's going to continue to hopefully be on our show on occasion as well, so I'm sure we'll get her back. Brittany, thanks for stopping by. We appreciate it, and I'm sure I'll see you back out at the field in June sometime. In June.
Yes, thanks so much for having me.
Of course. All right, there goes Brittany. Great to have her on. Great perspective on that, and I like going through all those audio clips, and so maybe we'll try to do a little more of that as we continue going forward. But like I said, a little special show with Kevin being delayed by having to cover some hockey. He's on his way back to SoCal, and so we will be able to do a show still this week with Kevin. So just sort of keep your ears peeled for that, but you get a bonus show instead. So the one thing that we haven't talked about here is, of course, that I did get to talk to Sebastian Lletget. It was a real quick field side interview. The quality of the audio isn't wonderful because, of course, it was right before the game. I was down on the field. I saw some of you. Hi, everybody. It was good to see you, too. And got to talk to Sebastian as he was getting ready to take pictures of the team. Remember, this was sort of one of the things that he wanted to do. He says it's a passion of his. So I guess without me explaining the entire 1 minute worth of talking that I got from Sebastian Lletget on the field, I should just let you hear it. So here is Sebastian Lletget on the field prior to the LA Galaxy's 2-2 draw with the Chicago Fire, and he was out there taking pictures.
All right, here with Sebastian Lletget. He's down on the field photographing today. Seb, probably not the way you want to do it, but it seems like a pretty fun experience.
No, definitely. It's going to be a fun time. I want to be as close as I can to the team, and if this is the only way to do it, on top of that, this is one of my passions. So it's a win-win for me. It's awesome.
How did you come to this sort of decision to come out here and shoot tonight? Was it Robert, who's we've had on the show?
Yeah,
did he convince you?
Well, Robert, who's head of the photography, and John Lawrence. They're good friends of mine ever since I signed with the Galaxy, and it was just a good opportunity. He's like, why don't you just shoot the game against Chicago, and I was more than happy to do it.
Very good. Last question, I know we want to find out how the injury's going, so how are things going with that?
No, honestly, everything's, the way it's going is great. It's going to be a slow recovery, but, let's hope in a couple months that I'll be ready to go.
Is it tough sitting here on the sidelines and taking pictures when you want to be out there playing?
Oh, man, this is so tough. But I'm going to enjoy it regardless, and I hope the team wins.
All right, there was Sebastian Lletget talking to me before the LA Galaxy game on Saturday. Just a quick brief update from Seb. Good to talk to him. He seems like he's in good spirits, so that's a good thing for the LA Galaxy. Hopefully he'll be back a lot sooner rather than later, especially with Jermaine Jones now looking like he's not going to be back for a little while. At least 3 to 4 weeks. So we'll see how that goes. All right, that does it for me. That was it. It's easy to do. We got through it pretty quickly. Didn't want to waste too much time with you. Again, thanks to Brittany Pergl for coming on and talking to us. She's a wealth of knowledge. We're going to have her on the show some more here in the future. So Britt, thanks for stopping by. If you guys have any questions for me, of course, at Galaxy Podcast, at Jay Guesman on Twitter, and cornerthegalaxy.com, where you can read all of the articles. All right, for Miss Brittany, I'm Josh, and you've been listening to Corner the Galaxy from the Box on cornerthegalaxy.com. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy from the Box podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast, and be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. And for all of your independent LA Galaxy news, discussion, and entertainment, including this podcast, head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com. Fans, thanks for listening. We ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.